r/Askreddit, what is the most severe case of someone being completely out of touch with reality you've ever seen? My friend stole my card information and bought loads of expensive stuff. I asked her if it was her before reporting it, knowing that she was going through a tough time and I wanted to give her a chance to make it right and that I could be in trouble for conspiracy to fraud if I reported it, and they believed I'd got stuff delivered to my friend to claim fraud for the money back. She said no, I thought someone else had done it, so I reported it. When she got arrested she said she didn't think they'd take the fraud thing so far. She thought you could just call up banks to get the money back and they wouldn't investigate. I was at a bar and some guy was giving an impromptu lecture of why millennials are so broke, and blamed it all on us being lazy students who don't want to work and go to school. When asked what he did, he was a property owner and owned a few apartment buildings. Then someone chimes up with the fact he doesn't own any properties, he manages them for his uncle who pays him to do nothing all day. I'm fairly convinced that my current shift supervisor thinks anyone who works an overtime shift is doing it out of loyalty to the company, and not because of the 1.5x pay rate. Had a friend who insisted she was in a relationship with a C-list celebrity, whom she met once during a comic convention. All the celebrity's Instagram and Twitter posts were for her and everything had a meaning behind it. When the celebrity got married, she said that it was just for the media, so she and celebrity could live a quiet life. When he didn't do anything for her birthday, she had a breakdown. She went to therapy not long after. My cousin was spoiled and sheltered her entire childhood through college. Then her parents stupidly cut the leash without any preparation and released her into society. She quickly got in trouble for bouncing checks all over town. My mom picked her up and asked why the hell she was writing bad checks everywhere. Turns out my cousin was under the impression that as long as you had checks in your checkbook, you had money in your account. She didn't understand that you deposit in a number and then can spend or withdraw up to that amount. Please teach your kids basic finance. Note, this was like 1996, before it turns into a who writes a check anymore discussion. I have an aunt who's never really worked a day in her life because her husband created his own business early on in life. They live in a McMansion, and I was over once and we got to talking about fitness. And she told me, oh yeah, we send Pamela to this special training gym. It's only $200 a week, you should try it. The fact that to her it was only $200 really kills me. I made $9.95 an hour at the time. This was from a regional manager of Starbucks. After they removed merit-based raises that could go up to a 5% increase, changed to a flat 2% increase. When she asked if people liked the new raise plan, I said actually no, they feel unmotivated with no reason to perform any better than just normal. Regional manager, your staff need to realize working isn't about money. One bully of a boss asking the 3 people who suffered most from his behavior if they would want to move to a new employer with him as a team. HMM. I knew a girl who cheated on her boyfriend. When he found out, he broke up with her. I knew someone who unironically tried to convey that not only is Pokemon demonic, but they exist in real life and there are reported cases of them attacking and harming people. My stepfather's grandpa suffered from psychosis in a strange way. He wasn't able to distinguish mirror reflections from real life. He would often be found talking to the mirrors, his reflection, for hours. Later on, he wasn't allowed to have any mirrors because he would believe that that man was there to kill him, and often would turn violent. Turn violent as in he would start punching and clawing against the mirrors. A woman I knew a few years ago. She had a job. She was convinced she was supposed to be a movie star. She never did any acting, though. She also told me about the married man that she had slept with. He loves me, but he can't leave his wife. She actually did stop having sex with him, but they still hung out. My sister-in-law, kicked out by her boyfriend, comes to stay with us for a few days. We suggest looking for a flat/cheap house to rent near us. She won't live in the scummy part of town near us. She'd like a 3-bed house with garden in the best part of town. She has no savings, and isn't sure if she has a job, was a part-time cashier in a supermarket. Stopped going to work when COVID came. Note, not furloughed. Supermarket still open. She's just not going in. When I suggested maybe she couldn't afford £500k on a family home on her salary, he suggested she just get a council house, disregarding the huge waiting list and the fact that most council properties are right the ghetto parts of town. This is just the crust of a deep layer of unhinged fantasy world that she lives in. My boss's wife, 28. She grew up in a wealthy family and married to a man who was third generation owning the company he was in. They were a regional power, etc. She was talking to a staff that in general made 36k a year, mumbling about a staffer who was on his honeymoon. Tennessee. Ha. Tennessee. She looked around the room for everyone to join in. My god. How did she agree to that? We did Hawaii and that was least I told him was acceptable. My sister grew up with everything handed to her and literally cried when her first car wasn't the color she wanted. Married Rick. Can't fathom why I can't take off work whenever it suits me. And says stuff like I wouldn't ask my boss for a week off. I would tell him I'm taking the week off. I went to a private international school in London as a teenager. Most kids there had parents working good jobs, but in between them were some filthy rich kids with parents in the oil industry or something similar. In 8th grade we were talking about our Easter break and my friend from Belgium was talking about how his family had decided last minute to go there over the break, but had decided to drive there because there were no flights available. Then this Russian billionaire classmate of mine asked him, why don't you take a private jet? She was so clueless when we started laughing. Edit. Grammar. I worked on shifts with a guy for years who thought every single person was out to get him. I've never met anyone who had such a warped sense of reality. He would joke on with someone, then go away for the weekend and stew on one particular thing, then come in on Monday absolutely raging over taking something the complete wrong way. I've seen him attack 2 people and heard about a third. Thing is, he's so dopey, everyone thinks he's harmless and that's just the way he is. A guy I trained as an apprentice has just started on shifts with him. Doesn't take anyone being a dick well at all. My father. He is an habitual liar. I somehow think he believes his own lies. Over the past couple of years I've noticed he doesn't actually have anything new to say. Sort of regurgitates sentences in slightly different ways. It's caused his business to fail. He lied to everyone that was employed there, saying he had to liquidate the company, going so far as to tell people he met with lawyers and the process has been started. I did some digging and found out there were no lawyers or liquidation. He just tried to duck the system. I have no contact with him, but my brother says he is still trying to use the same tactics. I just feel he believes everything. Sort of like living in his own head. Very sad that he damaged lives in the process. Rick Snyder, former governor of Michigan. When the Detroit area was wrecked by massive flooding, and most houses with basements flooded a few feet deep and people lost tons of their stuff, and thousands of cars were written off because of the flooding of the roads. Rick let us all know he understood what it was like, because one of his vacation properties, multiple, had a leaky roof one time, and some carpet got wet. My cousin's wife got very sick while we were at a wedding in Mexico because she drank no water, only alcohol. She said, there were ice chips in my drinks, so I thought it was enough. Anyways, she complained because at the hospital some of the staff didn't speak English. You're in a Spanish-speaking country. My soul legit believes she's a strong, independent businesswoman who owns 3 major businesses. She does 3 MLM gigs. Edit. Thanks for the silver. The irritating thing is that I actually do have a brick and mortar business that I've been running for 5 years now, and she's always giving me business advice and pushing me to join her for these amazing opportunities. It's so stereotypically obnoxious. OMG hun, I totally understand the and yeah, I bet you do. All said while wearing brightly horrendous outfits, caked on macup, and smelling like decaying frankincense. Parents of a 35 years old woman who was hospitalized after suffering severe anoxic brain damage 20 years ago. She had been in the same ward since, barely conscious. They refused to get her transferred to a more suitable facility for 20 years, saying that there's no reason to do so, those facilities are for lost causes, and their daughter is going to make a full recovery. finish school, get married and be totally fine. Working in hospitals got me quite a collection of these stories. But this one I thought was one of the saddest ones. That legislator who said the female body has ways to shut down a pregnancy in the event of a legitimate rape. Work with a girl who is a flat earther, and on top of that denied the existence of space. When the topic came up, and I disagreed, she asked if I had ever been there. Obviously I haven't. I told her I have also never been to Japan, and that does not mean it doesn't exist. She complained to management about my intolerance of her beliefs. My girlfriend was traveling in China when she was 18 years old, and was once randomly approached by a man claiming to be a scientist performing a medical study on feet. He would need to measure the exact dimensions of her feet. For this she obviously had to take off her shoes and socks, and he would also need to take some pictures of her feet as well. Years later she tells this story to me and some friends in a bar. At first we start laughing, but then realize she isn't joking, and still doesn't realize what had happened there. We actually had to spell it out for her. I'm sure she made some Chinese foot fetishists day. I was a stable hand of a very upper tier barn in a wealthy part of the country. The staff have to sign non-disclosure agreements to protect clients. On one particularly scorching July day, I overheard a client venting to another about how she was incredibly stressed and going to have a mental breakdown because her first choice catering company was all booked up for the weekend of her last-minute yacht party. I'm paycheck to paycheck and had probably a total of 3 days off since Christmas. I would love for a yacht party to be my basis for a mental breakdown. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more videos just like this one.